John Bozeas. As a sports journalist, I've covered many of the world's top track and field athletes, including discus thrower John Powell. John started throwing the discus in 1966 as a 119-footer at American River Junior College. 6 years later, Powell had made his first of 4 Olympic teams. In '75, he set the world record at 226 feet 8 inches. John Powell may not be the tallest or strongest discus thrower in the world, but he is certainly the sport's best technician, and his knowledge can help you.
All right, that was a nice looking throw. You went right down the line. During the next half hour, Carol, Katie, and I would like to share with you some of the simple drills and techniques that helped us to improve our PRs. Carol went from 128 feet to 207 feet as a college senior. And I went from 119 feet as a freshman in college to 233 feet in 1984. Now, some of this stuff is going to be super secret. So what I have to do, I have to request that you please, all of you, raise your right hands and repeat after me. I promise I will not divulge any of these secrets I am about to receive. And especially I will not tell Mac Wilkins, Art Burns, or Ben Plunkett. Now, I think with some of these ideas that you'll be able to run with them and also throw PRs and enjoy great success in the discus. In the grip, you place your hand on the discus until the first knuckle rests comfortably on the edge. And then there are a couple of ways to approach it. The one I prefer is where you wind the discus clockwise into your hand until it feels kind of firm. The important thing on the grip, however, is that you find a comfortable position so that you're able to spin the discus. The discus that spins the fastest goes the farthest. And so you can experiment with that a little bit. Usually people find that if they can keep a 90-degree angle between their thumb and their index finger, that gives them the most stability in throwing the discus. Now, on the release of the discus, for a right-handed person, it's going to come off the index finger in a clockwise fashion. Some beginners have a tendency to throw the discus out of the back of their hand, but if you're throwing it in a clockwise position, that's the best. And like I say, once again, the discus that spins the fastest goes the farthest. Now, in order to learn the discus release, there are a couple of drills that we do. One is throwing the discus right up, straight up in the air, with an arm swing so the discus goes directly overhead. Another one is rolling the discus. It's similar to rolling a bowling ball. The idea is if you can roll it like that, the release is exactly the same in the throw. To make this interesting, what we've done, because it is boring to do some of these drills, is that, for example, in rolling the discus, we'll try to roll it between the 5-yard lines of a football field. We'll try to roll it across a football field, which is 160 feet. Additionally, sometimes we'll use a target and we'll try to roll right for that target for a little accuracy. This kind of breaks up the monotony of it and also helps us to learn how to release it properly. We break it down into 4 phases, and the first phase is the standing throw. There are 2 ways to approach this. One is where you stand with your feet shoulder width apart with the left foot slightly behind the right. And then you take one wind and throw. In the other approach, you stand with your feet together, and as you wind, you're reaching with your left leg, and then you throw. And what you want to concentrate here on is just one wind-up. You don't need to take several, as many people do. One will get the job done. Take the throw and throw for a target. Many times that can be a bag or a towel or something of that nature. But the idea is to line up your throw, direct your throw so that you're actually throwing at something out there in the field. The second phase is the step and turn. You start out at the back of the ring, you step to the center with your right foot. Now what we're working on here is the right foot turning in the center. This is a common fault for many throwers. They don't actually pivot their right foot completely, and we're concentrating on doing that. So we step to the center of the ring, we drive with the left leg, and we drive right around a bent right leg. And keep your back arched. Move to the power position, and you actually move through the power position and jump and throw, once again throwing for that target out in the sector. One of the things in the step and turn, as you step to the center, you torque the body. That is, you wind and hold that position. You hold that position through the entire movement. So the only thing moving in the step and turn is the lower body. You move through the movement, you reach the power position, and you throw through that position. You hit the power position and throw. The modified South African drill is the third phase. You start at the back of the ring. One foot is outside the ring. One foot, usually for right-handed thrower, it's the left foot, is inside the ring, and it points towards the center of the ring. What we want to develop here is the idea of sprinting with the discus. So just as a sprinter is crouched, your left knee is bent. The left knee is bent. You drive off that left knee. The right foot goes in the center of the ring and makes its 360-degree turn. You land in the power position. Once again, the whole idea when you sprint out of the back is that you're going to land in the power position, but it's only going to be for a brief moment, and then you throw. With the South African drill, you've got left leg drive out of the back. In the center, you're pivoting, and you have right leg drive. So it's like a piston. The first piston is the left leg driving out of the back, and the second is the right leg pivoting and driving at the front of the ring. Again, when you start, you wind and hold the torque position. Wind and hold that position so that the only thing moving are the feet. The key here is to keep the feet and the hips ahead of the discus. And you'll find that if you find a comfortable position where you just leave the discus right over your right rear, that you're able to keep the right foot ahead of the discus, and that when you do this, that you'll create snap. One of the ways many coaches talk about is hip hop or hip drive. So you'll notice that if you turn your right foot, this also facilitates the hip driving or popping. So turn that right foot, and it will cause your hips to pop, and that will allow the discus to snap. The full turn is the final step in the four-step approach. All you really want to do is turn that left foot 180 degrees. In other words, it makes a half a turn out of the back and gets you into the South African position, because that's the most powerful position there is to develop speed in the discus throw. This is where all the power is derived, is getting into the South African position and then sprinting out of it. And as you sprint, you want that right foot to go to the center of the ring, do a 360-degree pivot. When the left leg lands, the discus should be as far back as possible, and this will give you maximum distance. Now, when you're doing the full turn, it only requires one wind-up, really. You do this for a couple of reasons. It's economical. If you have a lot of people waiting in line, all you need is one wind. You should have thought about what you're going to be doing before you stepped into the ring. Now, you can carry the discus low or you can carry it high. The key is that you keep it behind your rear, your right rear in this case. And generally it's easiest to carry it that way if you carry it down low. As you drive and sprint across the ring, the drive of the left leg, if done correctly, will bring the discus up into a much higher position so that the discus is level with your shoulders. But it doesn't have to be level with your shoulders until you're in the power position. So those people who wind the discus fairly high, it requires a lot more strength to keep it up there, and we have found that if you treat this sort of like an ice skater, when an ice skater wants to go fast, their arms come in, and when they want to slow down from a spin, their arms go out. So in the discus, basically, as you wind, they can be out, and as you move towards the center, they will be in, and then when you reach the power position, they will come out again. So the sequence is out, in, out. And you should see this on good throws, where as a person is driving across the ring, the discus is low, and then it comes up as an action, as a reaction to the left leg drive. Each phase is more dynamic than the previous, but the idea is that in each movement you go from slow to fast. For example, when you start in the standing position or the power position, you wind slowly, and as you finish the movement you are accelerating. When you do the step and turn, as you're starting your movement it's slow and the velocity builds, so it goes from slow to fast. In the South African, you start out of the back, it starts gradually and slowly, and momentum builds. And it's the same thing in the full turn. You're going to start slowly and then develop sprint speed. In the full turn, both feet turn at the same time. You'll move to the South African position, and when your left knee is pointed towards the center of the throw, or the center of the ring, is when you'll start your throw. And then you'll drive down the line and enter into the power position, where both feet will be down at the front of the ring, and then blast out of that. The idea, once again, is to start slowly and to accelerate. Here's some drills we want to show you. The first one is the walk and pivot drill. What we're working on here is the right foot turning. There are very few movements in life that we do that simulate this, so we have to, in actuality, do it ourselves. So as we're walking, you can be walking towards the discus area, you can be walking home, you can be walking in your local Alpha Beta or Safeway store on those nice floors. As you do it, turn your body sideways, torque it, and as you're walking, do a 360-degree rotation on your right foot. You've got to practice this habit. You've got to get into the habit of practicing that. And many times, just as you're walking out to the discus area, you can be practicing this and killing two birds with one stone in it. And the key to learning how to snap the discus, the key to learning how to sprint with the discus, is having a right foot that turns, that is used to turning, used to doing that 360-degree turn. Pivot drill is another way to help us emphasize the right foot turning. In the discus, you've got a dynamic movement, and therefore what we're trying to do here is develop our balance. Pretend like there's a pole that runs through the middle of your knee. You've stepped into the center with your right foot, and it's like you are rotating around this pole. So you pivot, reach, pivot, reach, pivot, reach. You're driving with the left foot around that right foot. You drive once again. It lands, you drive once again. You keep the upper body torqued, but you're moving across the ring, then you're moving back across the ring and back across the ring, and you're trying to do this continuously. Once you get this drill down and you're balanced, you should be able to pivot and throw off of this drill. Now in the South African drill, what we're trying to work on here is developing our sprint speed, or actually learning to run with the discus. And the way it was originally presented to me was you hold the discus out in front of you, you run along or jog along, and as you become more familiar with it, you'll even be able to sprint along with it. Then you drive off your left leg, keeping the discus in front of you. You land with both feet, and you still have your eye on the discus, which is in front of you at this time. So now you're going to be able to pull it through actually 360 degrees. So the idea is you get the feel for a 360-degree pull on the discus. Float, float, sting is a drill we do to help develop our rhythm. In the discus throw, If you can think of it as a dance and put it to numbers like 1, 2, 3, you'll find that your throwing will improve. Now in the float, float, sting drill, what she's doing is she's driving, or what we're doing is we're driving off the left leg, landing with both feet at the same time, moving into the next position where you drive off the left leg again, land with both feet at the same time, and then in the third phase you drive off the left leg and land with both feet together, and then you drive off the right. Drive with the left, drive with the left, drive with the left, drive with the right. Once again, getting back to the idea of pistons, where you've got your left leg as a piston and your right leg as a piston, and you develop a rhythm so that you're able to do 3 of these continuously. And in the process of doing that, you will develop rhythm. When I had problems with my technique, I found that sometimes by going through the movement backwards, it gave me the seeds to the solution of what I was looking for. So for example, the way I developed the left leg drive out of the back and trying to keep it low to the ground, and all of that evolved from the fact of doing the movement backwards. So here we have Karen doing the movement backwards, and she does it quite well. So sometimes, as I said, when you've got problems doing it frontwards or forwards, you'll find that when you have to take the time to analyze what you're doing in order to hit the positions to do it backwards, that this will teach you or show you some of the areas that you need to work on when you do it forwards. All right, let's start with a stance. We put in the center line. Now I prefer a stance where you straddle the center line, like so. Left foot, right foot. Now there are those that prefer to put their left foot right on the center and their right foot a little farther over. And when they pivot and drive, they feel they deliver linear, or develop linear power right down this line. However, I find it's most comfortable to straddle the line and develop what I call a backward 7. Power moves from the right side to the left side, and then down through the center of the ring and to a point over here. So in essence, we are developing linear power along a line, but it's not the line that some other people would propose. So this is where we get the backward 7. Your weight, in essence, when we start, is on the left side, and we keep it there. And all we have to do is pivot 360 on this foot and then drive to the center. Now let's talk about the action of what the right foot does and what the left foot does. Now if you watch the motion of the right foot, there are people that advocate a wide sweep of the right foot. Now this is fine. The right foot sweeps out, goes outside the ring, comes in, goes to the center, and does a smaller circle and continues through. Now this idea is called big circle, little circle. You let the foot sweep out wide. It goes out wide. That's the big circle part. As it comes into the center, it accelerates. Now many people have a problem right here because their right foot stops. So you have to have a pattern that allows this right foot to continue. It sweeps out, comes in, does the little circle part, but very fast, and accelerates. And the end of the throw, actually, with the right foot is when it reverses and ends up over here. Now the action of the left foot is going to be more or less linear. Whereas the right foot is big circle, little circle, the left foot is a straight line. It goes from this point to that point. And you'll notice that it probably makes a gentle arc. But during the phase, it drives out of the back, and it makes a nice pattern here. Therefore, we have a nice linear approach right there, like that.
What is a typical workout routine?
Here's my typical workout routine. It's called the 4-step approach. The first thing I do is 12 scales from the front of the ring. Then I do step and turn, 12, the South African from the back of the ring where I'm trying to develop my sprint ability. And then on a minimum day, I'll do at least 20 full turns. Now this isn't necessarily always hard. Sometimes you're throwing more for technique. But usually on a very heavy day, it will be closer to 80 full turns. Now when I do my workout, I also throw with 4 discuses. In some school situations, you're lucky if you have one, and you generally have to wait 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 minutes before you get into the ring for each throw. Now some of the basic things we want to remember is that everybody should have a notebook. All the real serious throwers that I know, whether it be in weightlifting, track and field, shot put, discus throw, they all have a notebook and they keep a diary of their workouts in terms of number of throws, how far they were, key points that they were working on that day. And that also carries over into weightlifting, where they keep track of all their lifts. So, and the next basic is 10,000 throws a year. I remember the world record holder came to town when I lived in Sacramento, and I was a 160-footer, and his name was Danik from Czechoslovakia. And I said, "What's the secret to throwing far, Ludwig?" And through an interpreter, I expected something profound. He said, "You must do 10,000 throws a year." So if you break that down and you're training 10 months of the year, that's 1,000 throws a month. And if you break that down, that's about 250 throws a week. So you can see that even on his plan, you've got to do at least 50 throws, and I would say 50 full turns a day. And one of the keys that helped me when I was a beginning thrower was there were 5 other throwers on my team. I went out and threw the discuses back, shagged them. And for every 1 throw they were getting, I was getting 4 or 5, depending on how many people were out there. But while I was shagging, I'd practice my scales, I'd go through my step and turn, I'd do my South African, and I could practice all those things because you don't always need a ring. It's amazing how, if you go to a school or something, it's as if everybody must be in the ring to practice the discus. In essence, you don't have to be. You can practice from this dirt area, or you can practice from an asphalt area.
Could you explain the 3 basic principles of physics?
Not so long ago, we attended the elite throwers attended a clinic in which the Olympic Committee presented us with a book this thick to explain the discus. And what it boiled down to were 3 principles of physics. Now, the first one is the height of release. That is basically related to how tall you are, how high your shoulders are, and the fact that the discus should be released at shoulder height. The second one is the angle of release on your discus. And what they tell us is that the long throws are at approximately 37 degrees. Now, how you figure that out is beyond me, unless you go out there with a little protractor or something. But the way you get feedback on that is if the throw goes out and looks like a line drive, that's probably what you want, as opposed to something that sort of floats out. And the third thing is velocity, velocity of release. One that's going the fastest is going to go the farthest. So theoretically, if you've got one person 6 foot tall, another one 6'4", and they both have the same velocity, the one who's taller is going to throw farther. But there are some techniques that we can develop, learning how to sprint with the discus, learning how to snap the discus, and things of that nature that can improve your velocity here.
I have a problem fouling a lot. How do I prevent this?
All right, fouling was a common problem of beginning throwers because when they're in the ring, they don't concentrate on staying in the ring. And as a consequence, many times you'll have an entire practice session where you'll take throw after throw after throw after throw and foul. So you don't have the habit of staying in the ring. And the way you acquire that habit is during a practice session, you make sure that you're concentrating on staying in the ring. We have a concept called the Tower of Power, no foul hour. So if your practice is from 3 to 4, during that time you sort of make a vow to yourself, or if you've got your coach out there watching, they make a note of how you're doing in terms of fouls. So the key is during that time you say, I'm not going to foul all my throws, or I'm going to stay in the ring, because all fouling is a bad habit in essence. I'll give you a little story. Brian Ofield's a notorious fouler, and Brian and I used to live together. And Brian threw a world record of 75 feet. And he had a warm-up throw of 84 feet. And I said, Brian, it's only because you don't practice staying in the ring. You could actually have a fair 84-foot throw. And Brian said, I'm going to warm up at 90, and then I'll stay in at 84, was how he approached it.
What is the focal point and how would you use it?
I'll show you first where the focal point is. If you're starting at the back of the ring here, here's your center line. As you pivot out of the back and drive, remember we've got our 7 here. As you drive, you want to pick up a focal point that is approximately, if this is 12 o'clock up here, your focal point is something that is over in this area. Now, and many times, we're throwing in a caged area. One of the posts acts as a focal point for us. Sometimes you'll have a tree in the distance, or it can be near. And what this allows you to do is, as you drive, you see the focal point. The discus will also move in the direction of the focal point. You will be able to see the discus and the focal point at the same time. When that happens, your left foot should be down. So by using the focal point, it helps you to get the maximum pull on the discus. As you're driving through, your left leg is driving and your right arm is driving. And they both should land simultaneously. The left leg lands in the front of the ring and the discus moves in line with your focal point. So at that point, you should have real good double support. Both feet are down. And at that point, you can explode from your power position.
How can I get 10 more feet out of my throws?
This comes under the heading of goal setting. Now, that great psychologist Henry Ford once said, those people who believe they can and those people who believe they can't are both right. So the key is, and the one that I have found that works, the easiest way for me to remember it is to say, yard by yard it's hard, but inch by inch is a cinch. Now what that means is, wherever you are, let's say you're a 150 footer. Every 150 footer wants to be a 160 footer or a 200 footer. The question you have to ask yourself is, when am I going to be a 151 footer? By taking that 10-foot goal and breaking it down into smaller and smaller increments and making a deadline for yourself. So you say, listen, today I'm throwing 150, I've had my little towel out there, and today I want to throw 1 inch past it. You will find that by going 100% to reach a 1 inch goal, that you will achieve your goal much sooner and quicker. I have never seen anybody who is trying to get 10 more feet who actually achieved it, but I have seen many people who have tried to get 1 more foot or 1 more inch that have jumped up 10 feet. The key is to focus in on that goal, on the most realistic goal for you for that day. And that varies obviously from day to day, because some days are better than others. But if you're able to focus in on what you can actually take care of today, you will find that you'll get that 10 feet much quicker. These drills and techniques have worked for me, and if you practice them faithfully, they'll work for you. Good luck on your next PR.
No.